Hey, welcome back to World Entertainment, and there's a lot of news surrounding the whole DCU, James Gunn, Warner Brothers sale to Paramount, Skydance, all this stuff. But one little fragment that appeared in all of that conversation was Zack Snyder. And of course, people are going, wait, is he coming back? No, not right now. And no, it's not the return to set up the DCEU again. What it is he has made it clear he wants to do one more DC movie to end his superhero career, as in directing superhero movies, and he wants that movie to be Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. Now, some people might be on board with that. Of course, the Snyder bros will be losing their mind going, hell yeah, it needs to be done. No, it definitely doesn't need to be done. Especially when we hear from Snyder himself what he previously said, because you truly realise the guy hasn't a clue about Batman or anything like that. But let's have a look at this anyway, because this was at the New York Comic Con, and it was following what they're saying was the huge disappointment of Peacemaker Season 2's final. And then these people reached out to insiders to see what was happening at Warner Brothers and DC overall. And this is where the story came out of Gunn. Once the sale goes through to Skydance, that Gunn is out and stuff like that. So they were told more though that Zack Snyder wants to return to DC at some point and do an adaptation of the Batman comic The Dark Knight Returns by the legendary Frank Miller and Callus Jansen. Regarding any chance that Snyder will return to his DCEU Justice League movies, apparently they were all told the ship has sailed and everybody has moved on from that. So if Snyder ever comes back to DC, that he only wants to do The Dark Knight Returns. And while it's reported Netflix might be eyeing the purchase of Warner Brothers Discovery, and that since Snyder is currently at Netflix, it seems there could be the possibility of a reborn DCEU, but recent reports shed doubt on Netflix buying Warner Brothers Discovery. It's not kind of putting doubt on it. Netflix have flat out come out and said, yeah, we've no interest in making the move for it. And Skydance has already put in an offer, by the way, which has been rejected. They offered 50 billion through shares, by the way. It wasn't a straight up 50 billion to Zaslav and stuff. It was through shares. They were offering a share price that in total ends up at 50 billion. But Warner Brothers rejected it because they think their shares are higher, and they're waiting until the new year to see what exactly their shares actually are, which is a bold strategy. You know, hey Cotton, it's a bold strategy, let's see if it pays off. But it probably won't. It probably won't work out in their favor. You know, they think because the likes of Weapons and Final Destination and a few others like Minecraft and stuff did so well at the box office that it's going to push their prices up. Probably won't, because everything else fell flat in its face and they're still over 30 billion in debt. Which, by the way, it's funny as well, there's stories coming out now as well saying like, oh, David Zaslav will probably be out once the sale goes through. It's like, yeah, that was always going to be the case. Why would he stick around? He's not a creative or anything. He's not a true overhead, so why would he stay there? He literally bought Warner Brothers, pumped money into it, tried to boost it to sell it. That was always his plan. He pretty much said that from the start. So this idea that, oh, David Elson will get rid of him, it's like, no, he was always going to walk away. That was always clear, and I don't understand any confusion towards that. But back in December of 2023, Zack did say he would end his superhero career with The Dark Knight Returns, saying a true representation of the graphic novel. Now that part makes people go, okay, so he wants to stay faithful to the comic. Until you hear some things. So apparently they're being told that if the sale goes through, this could happen. But this is what Snyder actually said, saying if you look at Watchmen, where Alan Moore took like basically iconic graphic characters that you could superimpose over a lot of, you know, if Night Owl is Batman and Dr. Manhattan has Superman-ish qualities, you can make all these different sorts of archetypical hero analysts over the top of those heroes, Snyder said at the time. Right there is where you go, he hasn't a bloody clue what he's doing or talking about. So he wants to impose the likes of Superman over Dr. Manhattan, or vice versa. You just take these type of characters and you impose them over the known characters. It's like, are you kidding me? Plus, did he watch the Watchmen's TV series? Because that was a disaster. A show so successful, they cancelled a second season immediately. That's how successful it was. Remember, they greenlit a second season. Then they saw what was happening with the first season and they immediately cancelled the second season because it was so great. It was so successful. What an idiot. But Snyder continued saying, the thing about Dark Knight Returns is it is literally Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and the deconstruction is so obvious and so palpable. For me, it was like comics grew up in a single moment. When I read that book, I was completely laid bare. Everything I thought about superheroes. For me, it's the greatest comic book ever written. If I could do that, then I will have done Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and I would be pretty much done with superheroes. Big question then. Can I raise my hand and ask the question here at the back of the class, please? If this comic book was his absolute favorite and the thing he wished he would do, blah blah blah, why the fuck did he do Superman and not Batman Dark Knight Returns in the first place? Anyone can answer that question? No? Yeah, that's a really, really strange one, isn't it? But you can just hear that he keeps comparing Dark Knight Returns to Watchmen. They're nothing alike. They are absolutely nothing alike, and yet he's sitting here comparing and saying, oh, you just have to superimpose these characters over these. No, Zack. And this is exactly why you should never be in charge of any of this stuff. It just shows he hasn't a bloody clue what he's doing, what he's talking about, or any of this stuff. Will this happen? No, it won't happen. I absolutely do not see this ever happening. But Snyder's probably going to keep talking about now. Other people, every time they interview him, will probably push for it. And it's just one of these, like, yeah, it's not going to happen. He hasn't a clue what he's doing. Nothing he can do is working right now, you know, because the guy seriously needs people to rein him in. Because just look at the state of that, what was it called, Rebel Moon. It's like, that was all him. Absolutely all him. There was no oversight into that, and you ended up with these 3 hour, 4 hour, however long they were, disasters. And it was like, wow, look at this movie where we're watching slow motion grain tossing. That was a real thing, people. And it just needs to end, and it's not coming. It's not gonna happen. Even if Warner Brothers gets sold to Skydance, it's not gonna happen. But he seems to think it's gonna happen. Other people seems to think it's gonna happen. Keep dreaming. But let me know what you guys think of this. Would you want to see him do a adaptation of Dark Knight Returns? Especially seeing as, remember, this is the guy who on Joe Rogan flat out said once he was told Batman can't kill, he made sure that Batman kills, and Superman and all these. So yeah, keep that in mind. He thinks he can do faithful adaptations. Yeah, press the next out, but do let me know what you guys think, and would you like to see it? And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.